Hello and welcome to the Purpose Pursuit podcast with me, Hannah Miller. It is good to be back with you, and it is the end of the summer. So this episode, if you're listening to it live or when it's first come out, you'll be at the end of the summer period. I am recording this having just got back from my holiday, and I'm thinking about, the autumn is coming and life changes. And I don't know about you, but back to school is a whole thing, isn't it? You don't have to be going to school. You don't have to have kids at school. In fact, you don't need to be anywhere near that life stage to feel like the end of the summer is kind of the other new year. We have New Year in January, and I think we have New Year in September. And we thought we'd record an episode that kind of looks at that moment when sometimes that idea of returning to normal routine, or everyone's back in, at the work and the holidays are over, can feel a bit rubbish for some people. They haven't got that excitement, that back to school feeling of the new stationery and the new week and the new term, and that they just feel a little bit of a lull, or perhaps a really big sense of overwhelm. It might be that you're just a bit down in the dumps, or it might be that you've got this bigger feeling that you've just lost your spark. And the idea of going back to the rhythms and the normality of a new term or a new season just does not fill you with a great deal of joy. And we thought we'd do a bit of a series in this coming month around the concept of purpose and the difference that purpose can make. I obviously talk about purpose in one way or another all the time, but we thought we'd do like this mini series around the difference that purpose can make, because sometimes we're looking for some sort of magical decision that we need to make, or this new route of life that's going to bring us all this happiness and joy, when actually reacquainting ourselves with purpose is the underlying factor that can help us with all of those things we have to navigate. And so this is the first in our little mini series, and this episode is called Purpose Reignites. This is this idea of why purpose is so important when you feel like you have lost your spark. So let's talk a little bit more about this idea of losing your spark. What do I mean by that? That sounds a bit nebulous. Well, I guess I talk to a lot of people that can't quite articulate what's happening, but they don't feel like they did. And that can be for all sorts of reasons. They don't feel like they did about what they do. Either they are bored or unfulfilled, or actually they're really overwhelmed and feeling like they might just need to just completely step back from the season they're in. In fact, I was talking to a new coaching client yesterday who was telling me the story of him hitting a point where he just completely lost this sense of purpose and joy in his work. It was to do with work for him. And he said, I didn't really get out of bed for 3 months. So he hit a massive wall. Now, you might not feel like you're imminently going to be in that situation, but you might feel like you are going through the motions and you are just turning up, doing what's necessary, but you feel this sense of, what am I doing it for? What am I here for? What is the point in this? Is this all I'm meant to be doing? And either end of that spectrum is a warning sign that you are moving into a season that is not as fulfilling as life can be. Not because life isn't hard, because life is hard. You have to kind of recognize that whatever life phase you're in and how good things are, there are going to be hard things within it. But I talk to too many people who have hit a point where they're at this like crossroads, which is building, because life is no longer as fulfilling as perhaps they would like it to be, or it previously has been. Another reason we're doing this series is because we came across some really interesting research. I get the Harvard Business Review because it gives me a lot of food for thought around topics to cover with you on this podcast. And it's had this new research in the use of AI. ChatGPT, whatever it is that you might be using to give you prompts to help you make decisions or to sort of help you think. And the number 3 use of AI in 2025 is purpose. What is my purpose? And I both looked at that and thought, gosh, this just shows why this is such a huge topic for millions of people. But also I thought AI can be helpful, but AI is just not the answer to this. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not anti-AI. I use it to help me in so many different ways. But I am concerned that something that is intrinsic to the personal identity and personality that we've been given cannot be delegated to AI. It might give you some thoughts and some prompts, but it cannot be delegated to AI. There's work that we've got to do to help us reacquaint ourselves with this idea of purpose. And I think I just again want to reiterate what I say a lot, which is that purpose is not this sort of ethereal ideal that is available to one or two people who have major life callings. If we believe that, I think we're just onto quite a depressing line of thinking. If you believe that purpose is only for those people, well, what about the yous and me's of life that are living life day in, day out? We have unbelievable bucket loads of purpose within who we are. And I think reacquainting ourselves with some of this idea of purpose is not to be frightened by or to be intimidated by, but instead to be seen as a way of finding that spark again. So as well as AI giving us this, this data that it's the number 3 use for it is about finding purpose, there is loads of data to suggest that a lot of people out there, you are not alone if you feel like you have lost your spark. It's something that is a big deal. I've just got a little bit of data for you I'm going to pick out here. So some data shows that 76% of people are feeling stuck in their personal lives and 31% anxious about their future. 23% of employees, according to a Gallup study, reported feeling burnt out at work very often or always. So that's essentially a quarter of us are very often or always burnt out. And burnout is a massive clue to the fact that circumstances have overshadowed a sense of purpose. And 44% of people feel burned out sometimes. Okay, so there is what leads to that can often be a lack of engagement, more likely to take time off sick. You are less likely to want to talk about your future goals. You are 23% more likely to visit, in the UK, we'd call it A&E or the emergency room in America. And you are 2.5 times more likely to leave your workplace. Now, there's good leaving and there's bad leaving. Sometimes it's good to leave. Sometimes it's time to move on. On top of this, Virgin Media reported that some new research showed that half of British people, 61%, actually more than half, feel they are stuck in a rut. And 60% recognise they are in need of a change. Now, the problem is that despite over 61% of people feeling they want that change, 52% of people feel held back by the amount of effort it is going to take, either money or life change or the stuff they're going to have to do to make it happen. So what happens then is this feeling of being stuck in a rut, not feeling like you're enjoying what you're doing, overwhelm, what am I doing this for, no mojo, going through the motions, whatever version of this you have, carries on because we feel like, well, I can't make a change and this is the life I'm in. And we don't know how to make that change. We don't feel we have the opportunity to make that change. And so a year passes, another year passes. And before we know it, we're really not acquainted with the life that we maybe would have liked or we once had. And I guess this episode is to kind of encourage you that there is another way of looking at this. And the idea of personal purpose is a way of moving out of this rut. It's a way of seeing a change. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to overhaul your whole life. So I've got a client at the moment, and because of so many circumstances she is in, she's a recently single parent. She has therefore financial constraints that are different to the ones she might have had before. She's also got a child that has additional needs, which means that there are certain sort of flexibility she needs and security of work at the moment that means a whole life overhaul is not available to her, even though that might be what she wants. But what that doesn't mean is that we go, okay, whole life overhaul or everything stays as is. I guess there are things we can do in between those two spaces. So I want to talk about 3 life routes you can have. You can have Plan A, which is everything stays as is. You can have Plan B, which is we look at making some tweaks in our life. Or Plan C, did I do numbers or did I do letters then? I can't remember. A, B, C. A is stay as is. B is make some tweaks. And C is making steps towards big change. And all three of those can work. Even the one where you say, I'm going to stick as it is, if you change your mindset towards that. So let's go through those three things. And I'm also going to give you a tool at the end that you can use to help you overhaul your thinking and make some plans towards change. It's a tool that's in my book. It's a tool that we use a version of in the course. By the way, the Purpose Pursuit course is coming again in September. So if you're listening to this in August and this is really resonating with you and you want more than just a podcast on it, get your name on the wait list and come and join us, because mid-September we go again with the course. Okay, so let's take plan A, which is life stays exactly as is. Perhaps for a whole set of reasons, you literally feel you have not got the capacity, the energy, the resources to make any change in your life. First of all, I'd say, I don't totally believe that, because there are many sections of your life that can have change made. But if you feel that you just cannot do anything at the moment, I would want to encourage you that you need to make your peace with that for a period of time. Like, don't keep opening the Pandora's box of what life might look like, because all you're going to do if you do that is just push yourself into more and more despair. If you honestly believe things can't change, and I'm saying I think they can, don't keep entertaining a life that you're not having, because it will make yourself feel more and more despairing of the situation you're in. I guess I want to encourage you to find purpose in this uncomfortable season where you're having to dig in and do what's necessary. You might be listening to this and just thinking, I can't leave my job. I can't change my home circumstances. I can't move location. I have no time for hobbies. I can't change my relationships. So therefore, this is that. And if you really do feel that, I guess my first point is to say, making peace with that season is so important. And finding a bit of yourself and purpose in that, even in the toughest of circumstances, can change the way that season feels. I remember when I was leaving a previous workplace, but I couldn't leave for quite some time. There was quite a long period I had to stay beyond what I wanted to. And my attitude to staying initially was not good. I didn't want to be there, actually, and I felt I'd been quite hurt by certain individuals in that space. And so what was really important for me, because I found myself one day, I'd got this square piece of paper in my diary, and I'd worked out how many days I'd got left in this workplace, and there were quite a few, or weeks. And I decided I was going to colour in a square for every day I'd got left, like this big countdown. And I looked at it and I thought, what am I doing? I am literally counting my life away. And this is not going to help me take good from a situation I don't really want to be in. And so I had to think about what could be different about the way I saw this period of time. Part of it was, how can I learn about maybe how I wouldn't do things in my next season of leadership? What will I not do? And a second one was, how can I learn to serve and give into an environment even when I'm feeling overlooked and quite disappointed? Because that is going to grow me as a person of character. And so I had an opportunity there of either count down the days, do the bare minimum, check out, or how can I reframe the situation I'm in so that it can both be better for me and better for the circumstance. And honestly, that wasn't easy. And I'm not saying I managed it all the time, but it really did change my experience. And I know that I learned lessons in that period because I chose to not just see it as I'm ticking down the days, get me out of here situation. So I think that would be my first piece of advice, is how can you reframe the way that feels? Now, most of you, I'm hoping, will feel that you're in plan B or plan C situation, that you can potentially make some kind of change in your life. And I'm kind of here to say that plan C may not be available to you immediately, but plan B possibly is. Let's just cover plan C, which is major overhaul. I was talking to somebody yesterday who is in this situation of, do we make major life change, which involves a complete career change, it involves location change, it involves a huge amount of financial risk, and it involves moving their children, and there was a lot at stake. And so if you're going to do something that's that level of overhaul to pursue purpose, you have got to consider what that's going to mean and take time to do that, properly explore the cost, the risk and reward. And I think that it's really exciting to be in those seasons, but it isn't for everybody. If you cannot put something down, if there is a dream, a big dream, like this person I was coaching yesterday, you've got to really go down the lane of fully pursuing it and doing your thinking. Following the lane down. If we make this overhaul decision, what will life look like in 5 years? And how exciting is it to us? And have we got the capacity, us or me alone, for the risk versus reward of that life change? I've talked about this before, and I'm just going to mention it again here. The data around regret in life shows us that we are way more likely to regret inaction than action. So if you are considering the big overhaul, I do want you to have that piece of data in your mind that, are you going to regret in 10 years having never tried, or are you more likely to regret everything you've given up in doing that? Only you can answer that. Only you can make that decision. I would also encourage you, if you're thinking about overhaul, is to go to worst case scenario and absolute best scenario, i.e., what if it works? What could life look like? And what if it doesn't? And you have to decide, what would we do if it really doesn't? And can we survive that? Or can I survive that? And probably you can. Probably you can. So that's the whole major life overhaul. But I want to talk about now that in between. How do we make tweaks to come back to a place of purpose? Okay, how do we do that? How do we make space for it when we're feeling like, what's next for me? Is this all there is? I don't want to go back to work. I'm in a time of transition. Do I have anything left to offer? And all of that. And I guess I want to say to you, if you're in that place, it does not mean that everything that has gone before was pointless. It does not mean that everything you did was a waste in any way, shape or form. If you've trained in a job and you decide you don't want to do it anymore, that is okay. Again, speaking to somebody recently, and they're considering a really big career change, and there's this sense of shame over, I shouldn't do that. I'd committed to this and I shouldn't leave it. And there are times for commitment and to stick at something, but I don't think that we should be taking on board these kind of maxims around, you should do this for life to make it worthwhile. I'm not talking about relationships here. I'm talking about work. Because actually sometimes a career runs its course, and that's okay. It's your one life. So when we come back to this idea of making change making these micro shifts towards purpose, I think the very first thing I want to say to you again is, it is so important, and this is why AI can't completely give you the answers, to know yourself. So many people I work with on the Purpose Pursuit, and the reason I wrote the book is that reacquainting yourself with your strengths, with your unique, true strengths, your personality, the things that are in your personality for life, have been part of your childhood, part of your teenage years, whatever age you might be listening to this, are a massive clue to your purpose. And sometimes because of life circumstances that have been challenging, whether that's a season of life you've been in or the work you've been doing, we start to lose our sense of self. We start to lose an understanding of the things that uniquely make us who we are. Again, a recent client who is so good at imagining the future, so good at envisioning things, so good at helping other people imagine 5 years from now, 10 years from now. He had completely underestimated how brilliant that was and that other people can't do it. Sometimes something is so much a part of our thinking or behaviour that we underestimate what a gift it is to other people. Or life has become hard and all of that's got a bit dulled and we've forgotten that we did those things. So I would love to encourage you to do some stuff that reacquaints you with your personality. Think about a season of your life when you were fulfilled. A season of your life when you've got some good feedback from other people, and remind yourself of some of those traits of your personality that you can reacquaint with and steward, invest in, and build upon for the next season. So if people see you as caring and available and kind, that is part of your purpose. And unfortunately, some of the stuff that we hear in advice these days is stop thinking about other people and stop bothering so much about what the people want from you. But actually, if you enjoy that, it's like telling somebody to cut their right arm off and to stop being who they are. If you are somebody who's really good at conversation, that is part of your purpose. Making conversation with people, dialoguing, telling stories. If you're good at envisioning the future, like I've mentioned already, perhaps you're good at having innovative ideas. These things are part of your purpose that one of the things I love to do with people more than anything is hold a mirror up and say, this is you, this is not everybody. This is the stuff that makes you human, and this is the stuff that makes you uniquely you. So I would say that taking some time to reacquaint with your personality, getting help with that, I can help with that, my course can help with that, my upcoming book will help with that, and so can other people help you with that, is massively important. And when we lose our way, sometimes we lose our sense of that. Alongside that, your personal values are really important. One of the reasons you might have lost your way is that suddenly you find yourself in a period of life where you're doing stuff that doesn't align well enough with your values. If you've got a value of legacy, leaving a legacy behind, and you feel like you're doing something that feels very short-termist, that is going to be a sort of a compromise for you on what you'd really like to do. If you are somebody that loves and values beauty and the aesthetics of stuff, and you find yourself involved in something where there is no honouring of aesthetics and beauty, and that is not important or prioritised by people, again, that is crossing your values. Knowing your values is another big part of the course, and I'm probably going to rant about that over the next few podcasts, and it's so important that those act as pillars to you then making decisions. Your personality, your personal values are like pillars that help you make better decisions going forward about the tweaks you want to make, the yeses you want to have, the no's you want to do as well. So I want to encourage you to look at your whole of life and think about these tweaks, and I'm going to give you a tool in a moment to do that. I'm James Clear I love, okay? If you follow anybody on social media, follow James Clear or get his email. I mean, I'd like you to get my email, but James's is brilliant. And this particular quote around passion and purpose is important. Passion and purpose is a feeling that follows action. It tends to be created or discovered and not predicted. You don't find your passion, it finds you, and you get in the mix and you try things. And I honestly think so many people think when they hear, people's stories, or maybe they hear my story, they think, that purpose kind of grabbed me one day and took me by the scruff of the neck and pulled me in a direction. That is not normally what happens. We try things, we lean towards things, and we see where they take us. We give something a go, and we take feedback from ourselves, from other people, and we either lean more into that or pull away from it. I did not have flashing lights ever in my life around any of the things I've done, but I looked out for the clues and I followed them. Like, Hansel and Gretel on the breadcrumbs. I followed those breadcrumbs. So I want to talk you through a tool that is in my book, and we do a version of it on the course as well, that you can use to help you one step along the way with this, okay? And in the book, it's called the Life Pie. All right, I called it the Life Pie, and it's about thinking about how we spend our daily lives. So rather than always thinking about the mountaintop moments, the best highlights of our life, this activity is about our daily lives. Annie Dillard said, "How we spend our lives." Sorry, she didn't say that. Annie Dillard said, "How we spend our days is how we spend our lives." And that's so simple but really profound. And this exercise gets you to think about your everyday life, a bit like a pie with different segments in it, and dividing it into those sections and working through this activity with a bit of intention. Okay, so let's think about your life as these different elements that make it up. Sometimes we obsess over work and we see that as the only element. But actually, this idea of the life pie is that there are pieces of the pie, slices, that are made up of different things. And what we're going to do is I'm going to read out a few prompts to you around this. And as you're listening, maybe you're in the car, maybe you're hoovering, you might want to think about each of these sections of your life pie and score them, rate them on a 1 to 10 of how well they're reflecting your sort of personal sense of purpose. Are you feeling like you're fulfilled in this area or you're unfulfilled in this area? And the purpose of this diagnostic tool is so you can begin to see, oh, actually, maybe this area is doing really well. This part of my pie is an 8 out of 10. And this area of my pie is a 2 out of 10. So maybe this is where I make a micro change and I move it a bit closer to my purpose. So then my overall score improves. This is to stop you from seeing everything about work and seeing that whole of life being able to be aligned with our purpose. Okay, so as you listen to me, I want you to think about this area of your life and think, how does it feel for you in the scoring out of 10? And then perhaps you could come back to this activity in a couple of months' time and see whether you still feel the same. Okay, so life pie number 1 is contribution and work. And as I've just been alluding, I've not called this career because contribution and work covers the unpaid work that we do. So you could be listening and you could be in a season where you're at home with children, or you could be listening where you work part-time and there are other things you're doing with your time that you're not paid for. I've got quite a few unpaid roles. I am a daughter of a parent with significant needs. I'm a wife. I'm not paid to do that. I am a mother. I'm definitely not paid to do that. In fact, I hemorrhage money because I'm a parent. And I am a trustee of 4 charities. Okay? I'm not paid for any of those. And you could argue that my paid work is the easy stuff and my unpaid stuff is the most challenging. So think about the whole of this. Think about whether you're in paid employment or not. But this is about those significant use of our time. And whether it's paid work or not, according to research, only 18% of us believe that we get as much purpose from our work as we would like to. So in this bit, I want you to reflect on whether your contribution, work, career, whatever bit is most appropriate for your life stage, feels fulfilling, purposeful, sustainable, and whether adjustments need to be made to better align with the life that you would like to lead. So the first thing is, what does work mean for you right now? Think about a typical day in your life and when you're engaged in your work and daily responsibilities. What activities would you describe as great? Which ones feel good? And which do you find to be not so good? Does your current work and contribution allow you to show up as your best self? In what ways does it support or hinder that? So you might want to press pause now and have a little reflection on that and score it out of 10. Okay, and when you finish this exercise, you'll be able to pick one of these areas and think, right, how do I begin to make a shift in this area? What I'm trying to do here is demystify the idea of progress into some major overhaul, but more, how can I begin to make a shift and diagnose what's really going on? So number 1 was contribution and work. Number 2 is what I'd call home and family. And I've separated this because you could have full-time contribution and work and also have a significant home and family setup as well. So home life includes the time you spend in your home and the key relationships you have to those closest to you. You could live alone and there's family and relationships to consider here. You might be navigating life as a parent or caregiver. You could be managing the demands of a busy household, raising children. You could be living alone, or you could be supporting extended family in other ways. This part of the pie is about how we invest our time in our home environment. Whatever that might be, your own daily household responsibilities. It might be that you're in a time where you're caring for loved ones, or you're creating a space that supports your own well-being, or you might be in a shared house situation and lodging. Whatever that might be, this is an opportunity to reflect on whether home and family life feels balanced, fulfilling, aligned with your values, or again, if adjustments need to be made. This could be hand in hand with life pie piece number 1, but for some of you, it could feel very separate. It's definitely separate for me because I am currently in a season where I do full-time work and I do full-time home. I mean, that's the best way I can describe it. I feel like I've been in part-time situations, and currently it feels, full-time both. So think about a typical day in your life when you're in the home and family bit. What things about that are great, what are good, and what are not so good? You'll notice for each of these life pies, I'm getting you to think about great, good, and not so good. So what comes to mind when you think about that? Does your home life feel balanced, fulfilling, and aligned with the life you want to create? Be honest with yourself and score it out of 10. That might be harder to do if you've got to be brutally honest about the way things feel in that part of your life. Again, there's still things you can do to change that. The third life pie is leisure and fun. This is about the time that you spend enjoying yourself, unwinding, engaging in activities that bring you joy. Leisure and fun aren't just escaping from responsibility. They are your essential recharge. They are how you nurture creativity. They are how you maintain balance in your life with work and other responsibilities. For you, it could be hobbies, traveling, new interest, relaxing, health, all sorts of stuff comes into this. But reflecting the time you spend on leisure and fun can reveal whether you're prioritizing joy or relaxation effectively in your life. And again, I'm fully aware that for some of you, this is a neglected area because of the very specific, needs of your life. But having spoken to many caregivers, I do think it's important to find things that nourish us, even if it's for just 10 minutes a day. I recently asked a group of, it was actually a group of doctors and leaders, what they did for fun recently. And one of them was a busy working parent. She said her leisure and fun was sleep. And, that might be the season you're in. But again, I would say, what does 10 minutes look like for you, even if that's all you've got? So what do you do in a typical week or month, if that's more appropriate, for leisure and fun? What are you doing? What are the things you'd write down in that list? There might be more than you realise. There might be less than you'd like. Being realistic with your life stage, are you happy with the amount of time that you give to it? And score that out of 10. Again, the scoring is then to help you then go on to prioritise. We'll come on to that in a minute. So number 1 was contribution work. Number 2 was home and family. Number 3 was leisure and fun. Number 4 is friendship and connection. And this is all about those wider friendships. So not necessarily immediate family, again, that can take on so many forms, but it's your close friendships, your social network, your sense of belonging to a broader community. For me, I've got some really lovely friends that that I try to have time with on a really regular basis. That might be an early morning dog walk. Then there's another group of friends that live further away that I want to maintain connection with. Then there are the social networks and the broader community. For me, that looks like being part of a church community, but for you, that might be something else, or it could be that you're part of I don't know, you do something like parkrun, or you're involved with High Rocks, or whatever it is that gives you some sense of connection to a broader community. But human connection, whatever form this takes, is absolutely vital for our well-being, providing us support, joy, and shared purpose. Do you know what's so interesting? That one study showed that participant stress, happiness, and well-being levels were better predicted by their social circle strength than by the physical health data that was collected on a fitness tracker. I thought that was unbelievable. So sometimes we think, that my well-being is directly impacted by whether I do enough steps today, but actually it's also directly impacted by my social circle strength. So this is what we're talking about in this section. On the flip side of this, loneliness and a lack of connection can have profound impact. You'll know probably that in the UK we've had a loneliness minister. We are aware of the impact that this directly has on social outcomes and health outcomes, and you would only have that in a governmental role if they believe making a difference actually helps our society. So again, how would you describe your social circle? Do you feel supported by your friends and community, or are you disconnected or isolated in areas? What types of connection give you the most joy and fulfillment? Do you feel a sense of belonging in any community or group, and score this out of 10? Again, be really honest. This one could be doing really well, or you could be in a season where this is a low score. And there's one last piece of the life pie, and I've called this one emotions and energy. Oh gosh, my emotions I am well acquainted with. Some of you listening might think, yeah, you are too, and you wish you weren't. Others of you might feel like your emotions are a bit more of a mystery to you. But I've called this emotions and energy because this is partly to do with the feelings we have and the amount of palpable energy we feel we have for our daily life. It's how we experience life that it influences our thoughts, our behaviors, our relationships. Whether you're having emotions or feelings of joy, stress, excitement, overwhelm, our emotions guide us to a deeper understanding of ourselves. They are not king, but they are also not to be ignored either, especially patterns of emotions rather than a one-off one. You do not, pay too much attention to an emotion in isolation, but recurring emotions or recurring sense of feelings do need to be paid attention to. And on top of that, the energy we have, our physical, mental and emotional energy, play a crucial role in how we can manage our everyday life. If you find in the morning that you're regularly find your energy levels are really low, something's got to be done to try and bring a shift to that. Do your daily activities drain you or energize you? What things do particularly energize you and boost you, and what things particularly suck the life out of you? I know there are things that do both those for me. There are some things I'm like, when I have to do too much of that, I am literally feeling like somebody has pulled the plug on my emotions or pulled the plug on my energy. And there are other things I can run toward and think, yeah, this is going to ask of me, but it will be replenishing as well rather than depleting. And we need to pay attention to this. I don't mean, in isolation on a given day, but what does this season's emotions and energy feel like? My emotions have been so out of whack this year because, there's been a barrage of things that I've had to handle. And I've had to think about how do I manage my emotions in this season and manage my energy levels in a season that's asking more of me than I would like. So here's some questions for you. What emotions do you notice recurring in your daily life? Are there certain feelings, joy, stress, frustration, disappointment, excitement, that are coming up more regularly and frequently for you? What are these emotions telling you about your life? When you reflect on your energy levels, what stands out to you? Are there particular activities that energize you or people that energize you? Are there other activities or people that leave you drained? Make a list and score it out of 10. Okay, so as you look at these 5 areas of your life, if you've taken some time to do that, what are you noticing? Maybe it's been positive for you because you've now been able to segment a little bit and think, okay, that's an 8 out of 10. This is a 3 out of 10. Maybe it's been really hard because the scores are low for all areas. Or maybe it's made you realize things are better than you thought because actually the scores are quite good. What are you noticing? Which scores are high? Which could do with some help? What is working and what isn't? What do you now need to prioritize for that purpose tweak that we've spoken about to make a change in your life? Now, I can't do all of this with you on a podcast and you can't do all of this right now, but I would encourage you to take one of those areas and pull it out and think, what can I do in this next month to improve this score? It might make you have to be brave. These things are not going to run at you. I mean, if you're really lucky, they might, but for most of us, we have to go out and find them. So where can you say, right, I have got the emotional energy or the time or the bandwidth to do this in this coming month? And then go back to your life pie and reassess in a month's time and see the changes that you have made. So this is really important to do in order to begin to chart new steps. If you do that every month and you come back to your life pie every month for a few months, you are going to find that you are significantly in a better place than you were a few months ago. And yes, you may not be living the full life that you want to lead, but I would argue that it's most likely significantly in better shape than it was when you first started that set of activities and thinking. Okay, so as we kind of come into land now, I just want to sum up with a few words again from my friend James Clear. First of all, I want to say, go away, think about that activity in more detail. Do it with somebody if it's going to help you get it done. Tell me about it. Email me. You can email me at hannah@hellosidekick.co. I would love to hear where you're at with this. You can also get in touch with me to get on the course where we do this stuff in much more detail with accountability. Head to thepurposepursuit.co or just drop me an email or go to my socials, which are at Hello Hannah Miller, to find out more. All of the links will be where you listen to your podcast. If you want to find out more about the course because you are aware you need to do more on this, then those are the places to find that. Don't miss an opportunity to make the change you're looking for in your life. But let's come back to James Clear for some final words on this. So often we convince ourselves that change is only meaningful if there is some large visible outcome associated with it. Whether it's losing weight, building a business, travelling the world, or any other goal, we put pressure on ourselves to make earth-shattering improvements that everyone will talk about. Meanwhile, improving by just 1% isn't noticeable. And sometimes it isn't even that noticeable or notable to others, but it can be just as meaningful, especially in the long run. In the beginning, there is basically no difference between making a choice that is 1% better or 1% worse. In other words, it won't impact you very much today. But as time goes on, these small improvements or declines compound, and you suddenly find a very big gap between people who make slightly better decisions on a daily basis and those who don't. Here's the punchline. If you get 1% better each day for a year, you'll end up 37 times better by the time you're done. This is why small choices don't make much of a difference at the time, but they add up over the long term. Today's episode is to encourage you to make a reacquaintance with your personality, to look at life right now and decide what your 1% shift looks like. Do that for a while and then add something to it. And as James says, in a year from now, you'll be in 37 times better position than you are right now. Don't despise small beginnings. See you soon. Bye-bye.